going to read to you today from my book Kundalini and Me, and this is about my past life as a woman named Ida Craddock. And I wrote an essay about this experience and the memory coming back to me, and some details of how this memory affected my current life. And it can be found, that essay is found on page 33 of my book Kundalini and Me. So here we go. My past life as Ida Craddock. And the main lesson in me even sharing this, because I'm not the first person who's ever remembered a past life. There's been many, many people before me, and many people that remember a whole lot more and multiple past lives. I have impressions of more past lives, but this is the only one that, and it's my most immediate one, and it wasn't all that long ago. Early 1900s was when my past life body passed away. So I was born like in the mid 1800s. So about 1860. And so it's not that long ago. So those memories are relatively close by in my memory banks. So anyway, my past life as Ida Craddock and the importance of dreams and the undivided continuum. That's the lesson. The importance of your dream life and the undivided continuum. What's the undivided continuum? It means that you're going through the creation, you're going through reincarnation, you're going through lifetimes. And it is an undivided continuum. It just seems to be divided. To you, it seems to be divided, but it isn't divided. Your life, your death, your birth, all of that is a continuum. You moving through it continuously. It seems divided because of the way that nature has the system programmed, but it isn't divided, it's continuous. So in 2001, it came to my mind as a yoga teacher that I wasn't merely a yoga teacher, that it was more of a sort of clerical calling, a monastic calling of sorts, and that I was teaching religiosity. And so I felt that the proper title for me would be priestess, okay? So, and this was with no prompts or encouragement from anybody to use this title. And I'm actually absolutely sure that it was off-putting and probably is off-putting to many people today. But I found the title of yoga teacher to be kind of underwhelming, and I decided to allow myself this priestess thing. And moving on. Despite my awareness this could be perceived as a haughty thing, I went forward with it, settling into an idea of what I felt being a yoga priestess would be for me. And I lived it quietly in my town of residence for many years, teaching several classes a week here, there, and everywhere. I taught yoga classes everywhere. I can and still will deliver a yoga class or sermon practically anywhere, anytime. I felt a duty as a priestess to conjure the spiritual investigatory juices of students who encountered my class, to give inspiration to seekers of a more spiritually centered lifestyle. And then, so that was 2001-ish, and then moving on a morning of 2005, I awoke from a lucid dream in which I had received very specific information regarding one of my past lives. I was directed to research these two words together online, yoga and patriarchal. I looked them up, and at the top of all the results in the world was Ida Craddock, priestess of yoga. My heart skipped when I read her name, and I felt feelings of anticipation. A memory door started to open, and I recognized her. I read and reread everything that she wrote, relating to the nuance of her way of being, of communicating, her sense of humor, her essence. And I even read a book about her by Harvard professor Lee Eric Schmidt called Heaven's Bride. The pieces fit, she and I. Much about my tendencies and destinies in this current life make more sense when reviewing and remembering the life of Ida. We live as a continuum. When one really works on psychic perception, progress will be made. Supernatural discoveries will unfold one way or another. Because of this revelation, I now experience at least one aspect of my consciousness as an undivided continuum, a seamlessness of lifetimes. No matter that it is only one of so many lives I don't explicitly remember, it's still a little something. I now understand that past life remembrance is really a real thing, not speculation, despite nature's tendency for us to forget that we lived in other bodies before. Indeed, it is within the forces of nature herself, the matrix, that we should forget ourselves with each new birth, ignorant to the memories of our own past experiences, living on instinct, but no knowledge. Rather than depending on or seeking out past life regression instructors, it might be safer to pursue the information on one's own through lucid dreaming practices, meditation, and lifestyle regulation. I've personally witnessed so-called past life regression teachers planting large, not small, large seeds of glamorous suggestion into the vulnerable minds of those to whom they were clearly selling a fantasy. Hence the need for genuine, self-imposed, independent spiritual disciplines like yoga, which require isolation and meditation on the self. The self, existing within the reincarnating psyche, within the confining program of nature, to be observed, developed, taken seriously, and preparations made for its future incarnations. Ida was a young, idiosyncratic, loner yoga priestess specializing in sacred sexology at a time when that was not socially acceptable, any of the above, especially the last. Not to mention, it was literally illegal for her to be doing this and dangerous to teach such knowledge. It was the early 1900s and late 1800s, and there were laws against such work and its circulation. Despite the focus on teaching married couples how to enjoy meaningful sex, despite living in such a repressive time and society, Ida was breaking the law by using the USPS, the United States Postal Service, to distribute her materials. She was imprisoned and she was institutionalized. Just before being incarcerated once again for breaking the Comstock law, the vice law, the anti-vice laws, Ida ended the life of that body, inhaling gas and neatly cutting the wrists. My understanding and acceptance of the temporariness of physical bodies provided the courage necessary to kill that physical body rather than to return to the terrors of the hard labor camp that she had already been in. That was 1902. This was happening in the United States of America. Interestingly, Ida lived during some of the same years as did the body of the occult master Aleister Crowley. Although we approach spirituality from different angles, I was honored he reviewed one of my most important writings, calling it one of the most important human documents ever produced. I am again associated with Aleister Crowley in this current life. I know who he is and what he's up to. I grew up with him. We both took bodies in the same area of the world and on nearly the same day of Pisces. I have been associated with him throughout my life in his current form. He's doing much of the same, to no surprise, having fully resumed his work as an occult teacher and has again, in this life, as he did in our past, given my work a public review. Now, that Aleister Crowley in this life, he grew up a little bit different than he did in his past life, and so he seems to be absent a lot of the violence that was in his nature in the last body. As Ida, I was unmarried my whole life and never had physical sex. I departed that body a physical virgin, yet I was a sexologist. In this life, I've had the physical sex, but haven't focused on teaching about it. I wonder why. Even though times have changed, women are different now, and sex expression has developed in its own way, with or without the inclusion of Ida's work. And Ida's work is incredible. A lot of work has been done in the West by the Western woman and all the women in history to gain these strides forward in sexual and social freedoms. And even though nature perverts every single thing, it's still good to see that women have made gains. The services offered in my last life were relevant then and remain so now, but society seems perpetually disinclined towards spiritual love-making. Therefore, there is little use for it, but it remains available. We live in a bipolar creation, undulating helplessly between hyperactivity and depression, exposure and suppression. Rarely do we experience the third state of being, equilibrium, a calm stability, the state in which the self becomes equipped with clear vision and a desire to act spiritually rather than carnally. Sex union between couples, explosions of love, was once my dream for humanity. It seems natural, doesn't it? But nature is her own entity, her own person, has her own story to tell, and we are just characters on set for the super drama that is the unfolding of this creation. When I discovered the life of Ida, I, Erin, had already vigorously resumed the study of yoga and religious research with a remarkably similar approach that I had before. When I first heard the word yoga in this life, I knew immediately that I must know everything there is to know about it, but with no conscious explanation as to why. Why was I interested in this particular thing? Why didn't I know why I was interested in this particular thing? Why didn't I know then that I had done this in my past life? Well, I did not know in that moment. Because the memories are contained right there in the psyche, in your mind container. They're with us all along. We are just blocked from accessing them. Yet we can be triggered. From that moment on, upon hearing the word, that was my trigger. I studied yoga, practiced it, scrutinized it, researched its scriptures, origins, teachers, and related religions. Now, to our dreams. The things we experience in our dreams can be really important, really, really important to our understanding of ourselves. Why we are the way we are, why we are interested in what we are interested in, why we have recurring issues in our lives. Our dream life can be an opportunity for collecting information about ourselves that otherwise cannot be accessed. The dream state is a special condition of consciousness worthy of attention and documentation. The early morning hours seem to be especially revealing. By putting value on the information I retained from my dream state, then bringing that information into the physical world by comparing the material left behind by my past incarnation with what I am producing currently, a bridge is built in a memory gap between lifetimes. If it happens again and another past life is so clearly revealed, I gladly accept the knowledge. However, my aim is forward, upward, out of this realm of existence. I would rather not find myself in another earthly body in the future, but instead in a higher dimension, a kinder place, conducive to yoga. I practice the 8 limbs of yoga because it increases one's psychic and spiritual vibration. See my video on your vibration. And the higher we go in vibration, the closer we get to living in a heavenly environment. It takes an amazing amount of pulling yourself together, admitting what you don't know, and expanding on what you do know. So that's my little story about Ida and I. And there are many details that I haven't talked about. They just seem like such sacred details that it's a little uncomfortable right now to talk about them. Just the synchronicities are alarming sometimes, but you know, I've accepted it as that this is a clear indicator of being my most recent past life. And like I said at the beginning of this discussion, I have impressions of other past lives, but none that are so close to me and so clear. But anyway, if you have anything you'd like to share, I'll probably be sharing more about this in the future as I'm willing to sort of reveal some of the details. And they may not seem like a big deal to other people, but to me they seem like a big deal. And just strong, kind of spooky indicators of the undivided continuum, how there are certain themes that are just pulled through it. They just follow through. They are us. They are in the psyche, and they go through body after body after body after body. They can fluctuate, they can shift and change and evolve, but there is a certain continuum because it's you all the way through, from the beginning of your experience in this particular creation all the way through to the person that you find yourself to be now. There is a similarity that you've always had with you, an essence that's always been with you. So anyway, please leave any comments or remarks that you have in the comment section. Thanks for listening.